We don't wanna be enemies. I go men with me, I go wings. You gon' step in my ship, you gon' mess with the king.
Welcome to More Fanime. What's up, people? How's it going today? On More Fanime, I want to have a chit chat. I want to discuss the rise and fall of Trafalgar Law. The man, the myth, the legend. Let's get in deep with this character. Let's talk about how all the accomplishments and failures that has happened to Law since he's debuted in the series. But before I get in deep into Law's character, please don't forget to like, share, and comment, and a little bit of a spoiler warning to be sure, because we're going to be talking in depth about this guy. So Law, he's from the North Blue, right? We all know that. He's from the North Blue. Little kid, little doctor's son, little child of learning doctors, yeah. And he was trained at a young age about doctoring and whatnot. You know, a chopper's dream childhood for sure. Sadly, he grew up in a town that had a disease called the white lead poisoning, which they mined, some kind of poisoning, like a copper poisoning in our world, I guess. And everybody started dying, you know, and they kind of got quarantined and then murdered by the world government. Real sad and whatnot. Law, the badass, lost his sister, but ended up hiding himself under a pile of dead bodies to escape and survive to live another day. Whoa, what a badass. What a determined young boy. He determines he's got about 3 years left to live, and he decides, fuck it, the government sucks. I'm going to burn this world down. There's no cure for me. Let's do the most damage I possibly can. So he finds a pirate named Doflamingo, Don Quixote Doflamingo, and he demands, with bombs strapped around his body, says, hey, let me on your crew. I only got a few years left to live, and I want to cause some havoc. And I'm willing to die for it. And, you know, I think Doflamingo saw a little spunk, he got a little spark there, and he's like, yeah, come on in, boy. It took a minute, of course. But he also met his future mentor there, Corazon. Is it Corazon? Whatever. Doesn't matter. Doflamingo's brother, who was mute, decides to, you know, take Law under his wing as well. You know, he's kind of keeping an eye on the boy. He doesn't want him there. He starts throwing him out. He's like, don't you dare join this crew. It's dangerous. But he doesn't tell him that because he's mute. Eventually, Law reveals that he has the D. Yes, Law has the D. His real name is Trafalgar D. Water Law. Yeah, Corazon hears that and he's like, gonna take care of this kid. Takes him aside, uses his silent fruit and says, you cannot have the D and also work for Doflamingo because he is a celestial dragon. And if he finds out that you have the D, you are his enemy, and he will eliminate you because they are suspicious of people with Ds. Eventually, Corazon takes Law away from the crew when he's got about a year left to live. They do a world tour, essentially, looking for a cure for the white lead poisoning. Unable to do it, everybody just calls Law contagious, even though he is not contagious. It is not a contagious disease like they say it is. No. Corazon eventually gets a phone call from his broski. Yeah, Doflamingo's like, we're going to get the Opie Nomi, and we can use that devil fruit to cure Law since you've been on a world quest to do so. Corazon decides, I'm going to steal that fruit. I'm going to heal Law. And we're going to give Law the fruit. He'll heal himself, actually, which is kind of a hell of a statement for a little child to have to commit surgery to himself. He ends up sacrificing himself by being shot by his brother Doflamingo, hiding Law in a fucking treasure chest, using his silent fruit so he wouldn't scream. It's a whole thing, people. We all know the sad backstory that is Law. And I would say it's one of the saddest backstories in the entire series. One of my favorite backstories in the entire series. You know, the thing about Law is, before we get into current times, is he's one of the most popular characters in all of One Piece. I mean the whole thing. I mean the entire Straw Hat crew. I know people that are fans of Law that aren't fans of the Straw Hat crew. Like, they watch One Piece only to see what Law's up to. And that's crazy to me. And I think he's got a badass design. He's got a badass attitude. And I think that's what gets him through to the fan base who really, really like the guy. He's kind of... I think in my Rise and Fall video of Eustace Kid, I said that he's got the attitude of Vegeta, but Law has kind of got the positioning in the fan base as the Vegeta, if that makes sense. Vegeta is more popular than most of the original Dragon Ball characters, even though he didn't come from the original series he came way later in the series, but then became one of the most popular anime characters of all time. Law, I believe, will be in that same position years from now when One Piece is over. He's going to be, and he currently is, a character that the fan base loves to death. He is the Surgeon of Death. So Law escapes, he learns the truth that Doflamingo's a douchebag, douchery. He escapes. I haven't gotten to read his light novel because it hasn't been translated in English. I'm sure it's been fans translated, but I haven't found a good link to that. If you want to comment down below, let me see that so I can read it. But I got the gist of it. The dude goes back to the North Blue and he finds his crew and he trains and he gets stronger. He meets Beppo, Sachi, Penguin, goes through some hardships as a child, kind of like Luffdog, becoming stronger. Eventually they get a fucking submarine, which is great for Law, a yellow submarine that he can use to travel in, which will keep him safe from being captured by somebody like Doflamingo if he happens to cross his path. At least at first, he's unknown. And at least at first, I assume Doflamingo thinks Law's dead. No need to worry about that guy. Big mistake, Dofi. And Doflamingo's kind of busy. He's building an empire in the new world as part of the fucking warlords right now. He doesn't have time to deal with one of the many people that want to kill him. So Law, he travels the Grand Line, he grows up, he gets stronger with his crew, he seems to have a certain selection process when joining the Heart Pirates. He finds people that are essentially being abused or are essentially orphans, like Sachi and Penguin, and like our boy Beppo, people that, and John Bart, who was a slave. He frees slaves, and it's like, hey, you're pretty strong. Join my crew. He lets people on his crew aren't necessarily going to be assets, but if they need a place to live, they need a home. He'll give them a home. He'll give them a purpose. He's that kind of guy. He's a nice fella. Law travels the Grand Line. We first meet him, the fan base, we first meet him at Sabaody, the archipelago, and he's badass. He's flipping people off. He's telling people what's up. He's chill. He's vibing. We're not sure what's the deal with this guy. From what I've read, is the original plan from our guy Oda was to push Eustace Kid as more of a rival to Luffy and maybe give him a little bit more screen time than our guy Law. But the fan base fell in love with the guy, and the editors told him, hey, you got to find a way to incorporate Law into this story even more in depth than you were planning. So Kid kind of got pushed to the side a bit, more than a bit, and Law got to be like a main focus, like he's not a member of the Straw Hat crew, but he's the damn close main character in the story after the time skip, for sure. He saves Luffy's fucking life after Marineford. That's a big freaking deal. The Surgeon of Death? I don't think so. The Surgeon of Life! He's got one of the coolest devil fruits. We find out he can just like pop people's heads off and they're still alive and attach different body parts and really mess people up, which is pretty cray-cray in the hey-hey. I would say Law is the greatest doctor in the One Piece world just because of his devil fruit, and his knowledge of people's anatomy has helped him dearly on his quest. I mean, he really made a name for himself. And there was a part of me that said, like, why didn't Doflamingo go after Law as soon as he got a 200 million berry bounty? Like, he was one of the most wanted members of the worst generation. He wasn't up here. He wasn't like Eustace Kid. Maybe he was trying to keep his shit as low as possible so he would be on the DL, you know? Like, I'm just gonna curve underwater with my fucking submarine. I mean, Law, he's a strategist. He's one of the most strategic characters in the entire verse. Yeah. So he didn't even go straight into the New World after the event of Marineford. No, he saw what was going on. He knew that there's some big fish in that pond. And he said, hold on. Beppo, Sachi, Penguin, Bart, welcome to the crew. We're going to figure this out. We're going to plan. So he spent some time planning, strategizing, getting stronger over the 2-year time skip, kind of like the Straw Hat Crew. But he also became the mastermind behind the Rocky Port incident, which also led to him getting like 100 or 200 hearts of wanted pirates on Hachinosu, on Pirate Island, on the Beehive Island. What? That's huge, which also led to Blackbeard taking over, which also led to Kobe becoming the hero of the Navy. Whoa! And this is all because of the mastermind to Trafalgar Water Law. Yes, this guy's insanely smart, insanely strategic, and that's one of the many things he does in the series. And this is before the 2-year time skip is even over. Eventually, he makes his way to Punk Hazard, where Caesar Clown is doing some fucked up shit to kids. And he sends his crew to Zoe, because he's got a mastermind plan, right? We all know that. Dude teams up with Caesar for a hot minute, has a plan to capture him, take out the factory of the smile fruits and whatnot, get Kaido pissed at Doflamingo, so he'll kill Doflamingo for him, because he hates him. He's got like a blood vengeance for him. And then I wasn't sure what Law's plan was to deal with fucking Kaido after that. If he even had a plan. I think his main focus was take down Doflamingo. If he could do that and his life was over after that, I think he was going to be happy. But also, he wanted to do the same thing that Nico Robin's doing and figure out what the D means in his name, what the history of the Void Century, all the knowledge that we all want. But luckily for Law, Straw Hat Crew shows up, they cause havoc, they go from there to Dressrosa. They take down the Doflamingo family as a team, as a bond, as a united front. The Straw Hat Crew and the Heart Pirates. And the funny thing is, none of the Heart Pirates, other than Law, are even involved up until that point. Like, he doesn't really have a strong crew, and I think that was the biggest leading factor towards Law's downfall, to be honest with you. Because after defeating Doflamingo and accomplishing his goal, so I would say that Law pretty much peaked at helping Luffy take down Doflamingo as a duo, or Luffy helping Law, but Luffy was the one that hit the final blow, but without Law he wouldn't have won, arguably. From there, they went to Zoe, yes, and they ran into the Heart Pirates. Once again, we see Beppo, Sachi, Penguin, the squad is there. They get no screen time to develop. Sadly, we get to Wano, Law's, strategery, doing his strategy. He should have went to fucking Whole Cake Island. I'm telling you right now, personally, I would have loved to have Trafalgar Law on Whole Cake Island as well, but crew kind of split up. He had no reason to go help Sanji. He really didn't even know Sanji that well anyway. So Law's on Wano. His whole plan to hide gets fucked over by Zoro Luffy. It feels like Law eventually just says, fuck, I don't know what to do. I gotta fucking roll with the punches with these guys, because they're just gonna roll right in no matter what I say, whatever plans I come up with. They're just going to do whatever they want. So he starts planning his plans around that factor, which leads to the raid, which he's like, okay, we're going to let Luffy and Kid run right in, and we're going to take the fucking submarine and go all the way around around and head on in the back way. So Law does that, which is a super smart plan, ends up on the roof, ends up teaming up with Kid to fight Big Mom, one of the 4 emperors, and with Kid's help, and I believe without Kid, there's no way Law could have beat Big Mom, and vice versa. They take down one of the emperors, one of the former members of the Rock's crew. So Law's plan to beat Doflamingo, he did that. So he accomplished his goal, but then he found a bigger mountain, and then with help from Kid, accomplished that goal, and then he ends up getting a 3 billion berry bounty, which is huge, and it ties Luffy, who becomes a fucking member of the Emperors himself. So Law's this close to becoming a freaking emperor. That's how close he is. I think the only reason he didn't get that title is because the world at large, thanks to probably Big News Morgan, thinks that Law's kind of a subordinate of Luffy. They probably assume that Law's a member of the Straw Hat Fleet at this point. The same with Kid, which is not true, but it kind of is. He kind of helps Luffy a lot. Kid and Law decide we need to get away from Luffy. He is a vortex that's sucking us in. We need to make a name for ourselves with our 3 billion berry bounties. Law, the strategist, takes the quickest route towards, their goals, the end of the Grand Line and all that shit. They all get their fucking poneglyphs, which he does have some motherfucking poneglyphs. He hits the road with his crew. He takes the quickest route, but this is the biggest downfall for Law right here, right now. The fall of Law. He runs into Blackbeard and he gets hunted down, people. Yes! He gets hunted down by Blackbeard, another Emperor of the Sea. He just got done dealing with Big Mom and Kaido and Doflamingo, and now he's dealing with Blackbeard, probably the final enemy in the entire series. What? Imagine if Luffy took that direction. We would have seen that fight way early on in the story. Whoa! So Law ends up deciding we're going to have a showdown. After some weird disease which turns him and his crew into females, and then he uses his haki to stop that. They go to the island using the Opie fruit. His fucking ship gets destroyed at some point as well. They're like, we got to take these guys on head on. It's the only way we're going to survive this. Blackbeard just wants the poneglyphs, and he's probably going to take Law and kill him as well, or use him as a bargaining chip in some way, shape, or form. So Law decides we're going to fight. And I remember when I read that chapter, when Law and his crew were going to stand up. It's like, let's go. I didn't hear no bell. Nuh-uh. Let's go, teach. I was like, Law's fucked. His crew sucks. Not in a bad way. They're good people. And they're pretty strong for the Grand Line, or the Paradise section of the Grand Line. But they, in my opinion, were not prepared in fighting style to deal with the new world. And they were just outmanned and outmatched by the Blackbeard pirates. They probably took some of them down. If you watch the chapter, or not watch, if you read the chapter, the one little half chapter we get of their fight, we see Law's crew strategically fighting back, doing their best, using their skills of swimming and using their defensive haki, thanks to John Bart, probably his strongest member of his crew, to be honest with you, to deal with the Blackbeard pirates. So Law's trying his best. His crew is doing their best. They went through so much together, something that we never really got to see. Their story before they met Luffy and them. I would love that as a side anime or side manga. That would be dope, and I would read it for sure. I think Law is a character just like Kid, that he could have his own manga about himself, and I think we as fans would eat it up. If we got an extra chapter every week, but it was about Law's backstory, yeah, let's do it. I don't even care if a different artist animates it or draws it like the Food Wars dude did for Sanji. I'm down for it. Even if it's non-canon events, let's see Law and his crew do some fucking team bonding. His crew ends up getting taken down. I'm sure some of them died. They just weren't strong enough. That was Law's biggest downfall, in my opinion. This crew was not built for battle. They were built for strategy, of course, and sneaking and hiding and working their way through, and they can fight when necessary. Law was the strongest member of his crew, which makes sense. He's the captain, but he badly needed a killer on his crew, or a Zoro on his crew, a member that can take people on by themselves while Law deals with the main threat. But he doesn't have that. Beppo's strong, but the only time he's actually a threat is when there's a fucking full moon and he goes all Sulong, which is the only reason Law didn't get murderized here. Before Law gets killed, or taken away so he can turn Blackbeard into an immortal, Beppo goes all Sulong, thanks to some fucking pill that our boy Chopper gave him, grabs Law, and they abandon their crew and their ship, which was destroyed. So the Law pirates, the Heart pirates, they're done. We saw their rise and fall in front of our eyes. It's over. The Law crew, it's done. He's got one choice. Join the Straw Hat crew, or at least the fleet, and support Luffy towards his goals, because there's no going back, in my opinion. The Heart pirates are done, just like the Kid pirates. Done ski. We're not going to see them together as a full crew again. I mean, I feel like Sachi and Penguin, they will survive. They probably will be slaves to Blackbeard, or at least imprisoned. So maybe he can use them to force Law to give him immortality? We'll have to wait and see. We haven't seen Law since his defeat. But, man, I don't think Law's going to ever reach the peak like he did before. That's why what I mean by the title of this video is the rise and fall. Law rose to the occasion, took on a major member of the fucking warlords. Doflamingo took him down, and then he rose even higher and beat Big Mom, and was a big factor in beating Kaido as well. And then when he ran into Blackbeard, who was kind of on that level, he got... and he just started falling down, and then abandoning his crew. Oh, you don't like to see it. You hate seeing it. You hate seeing somebody as badass as Law have to give up everything. And it wasn't by choice. Beppo kind of grabbed him and was like, we gotta go, buddy. The last thing we need is an immortal Blackbeard. Oh my God. It's gotta be hard for him. Because you gotta think he's being, doctorized, or at least he's healing himself right now. He's probably coming up with another plan. But his only plan really could be is like, I need to go ask Big Bro Luffy to save me at this point. Because he's got nothing. Law's got nothing left. My prediction for Law would be that maybe he does sacrifice himself to save somebody like Luffy down the line, or somebody else. I can't imagine he's going to use that ability to give somebody immortality on anybody but himself. Oh, well, I don't think it can work on themselves, so it must be Luffy. It must be Luffy Dog. Somebody like that. But I also can't imagine Oda killing off a character as valuable as Law. Somebody who sells toys, merchandise, constantly. He is the merchandise seller like Vegeta is for Dragon Ball, like Sasuke is for Naruto. Law is very popular. He is if you don't want to be a fan of the main characters, he's that character. He's the character you can latch on to and be like, nah, he's the best. He's my fave. He's got tattoos. He's edgy. He's smooth. He's laid back. He's chilling. He's smart. I like him. That's who Law is. And he didn't kill Law, but he essentially destroyed his entire crew and his entire ambition. I mean, he still might solve the history of the world with Nico Robin, maybe. Maybe, I think Law's greatest ending would be maybe settling down with somebody like Nico Robin, and they can just have children, and that'll be the end of their, lives in the world of One Piece. But he'll never become king of the pirates. He'll never conquer the new world like Luffy Dog probably will. I think that this is it. This is it for Law. We had a good time. We love you. But the story is winding down, and Oda was like, I gotta cut some of these characters off. So he was like, let's get rid of all of his crew except for Beppo and him because they sell toys. And let's get rid of Kid completely. And we'll get focusing on the main characters, which is the Straw Hat crew. So yeah, What did I miss? Probably nothing. I don't know. I love Law. I do. He is definitely in my top diggity dogs of characters that aren't in the Straw Hat crew. He is such a fun character in both English and Japanese. I love him to death. I love his design. I love his backstory. I love everything he's done up to this point. And I am still, even though he has risen and fallen and will never reach the peaks he did before, I still have a lot of investment in Law's character. Whereas Kid, who was taken down and is essentially turned into nothing at this point, if he never shows up again, we just assume he's dead, or he just kind of went back to the South Blue and was like, let me just take my shit and give up. I would be really sad if that happened to Law. If we never saw Law again, I'd be like, there's a plot hole here. But if we don't see Kid again, I'd just be like, whatever. Even though I do like Kid, Law's more important to the overall story. He has much more deep history within the brand that is the One Piece. What are your opinions on Trafalgar Law? Is he your favorite character? Is he in your top 10, top 5? Put it down below in the comments. Don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe. This is more Fanime. I'll talk to you later.